Welcome to the show, Our Democracy, The CJR Show. In this show, we will discuss questions of democracy, governance, elections, and other topical issues in Guyana and occurrences in countries around the world. We hope the show will be of interest to everyone. So let's begin the show.
Good day. Today is Wednesday, August 6, 2025. For today's podcast, I will first talk about the September 1st elections in Guyana, giving you an update. And for the second matter, I will talk about Gaza situation in Gaza and statements made by the Caribbean community. Let's start with the first matter concerning developments for the upcoming elections scheduled for September 1st, 2025 in Guyana. As I reported in my last podcast, campaigning by the 6 contesting political parties who are in the race for the elections. These elections, the campaign is in full swing, with rallies, public meetings, and door-to-door visits being made by party activists across the country. In the meantime, the Guyana Elections Commission has issued a press release reminding all stakeholders participating in the upcoming election, that would be general and regional elections, that quote, they all have a statutory duty and civic responsibility to contribute to the elections being conducted in a free, fair, transparent, and credible manner, end of quote. The statement went on to warn that infringements of these rules carry 6 months imprisonment and possible debarring from future elections. According to the Commission statement, it strongly emphasizes the need for voters and other concerned stakeholders to be informed of the following provisions as enacted in the Representation of the People's Act, Chapter 103, where it states, it is an offense for any person, including the voter himself, to communicate at any time to any person any information about the political party for which any voter has voted on his behalf, on his or her behalf, or as a proxy on behalf of another voter. Similarly, it is an offense for anyone to influence by any means a voter to display his ballot paper, make known the political party to whom he or she has voted on whoever behalf or as a proxy. The Commission release continued. Further, it is an offense for any person, directly or indirectly, to offer any money, gift, and or a loan to any voter to secure the vote of any voter at the election. Any person who commits any of the above offenses shall be liable on summary conviction to pay a fine and to imprisonment for 6 months. Persons convicted for any of the above offenses may also be prohibited from participating in future elections. In the midst of the campaign that is currently ongoing, opposition parties spokespersons continue to raise what I described as false flag issues, claiming that GCOM, 1, is in disarray, 2, engaging in procedural breaches, 3, lacks accountability, 4, that there will be confusion during tabulation of votes, and 5, that there is need for urgent reform. Clearly, all of this is aimed at sowing confusion and to propagate the erroneous view about the lack of confidence in GCOM. At the same time, the opposition's pronouncement should be considered as part and parcel of a political agenda aimed at accumulating misguided and baseless grievances to be used one day in court, as they have publicly admitted. In case they have not noticed, by airing their partisan and selfish political grievances, voters have been put on the alert to be vigilant and to be on the lookout for any opposition-sponsored irregularities and mischief. In the circumstances, an appeal to all reasonable-minded persons to be vigilant at every stage of the electoral process goes without saying. As I said before, the Guyana Elections Commission steadfastly and professionally implementing its work program according to its schedule, which is exactly in fulfillment of its constitutional mandate. Latest release from GCOM thus far indicates that there are 757,690 persons on the voters list or the official list of electors. That compared with 660,998 who were on the 2020 elections OLE or official list of electors, making a difference of approximately 96,000. For the 2020 elections, so that the number of persons who would have come of age, meaning attaining the age of 18 between 2020 and 2025, that remains at approximately 96,753. These persons will now be qualified to vote in the upcoming elections. The number of new registrants between 2020 and 2025 is approximately 137,291. The number of polling stations used for the 2020 elections was 2,339. For these 2025 elections, the number of polling stations will be approximately 2,781. Though the exact number is yet to be determined, a difference in terms of numbers amounts to 442 additional polling stations. So that the number of polling stations are yet to be finalized. In the meanwhile, the GCOM Secretariat is currently arranging for the establishment of what is called balloting stations to facilitate balloting by members of the discipline services. It is anticipated that there will be approximately 83 balloting stations across the country, with 67 boxes at each balloting station for distribution to polling stations where members of the discipline services will be balloting on Friday, August 22nd, 2025. As regards voting by members of the Guyana Diplomatic Service, that is at the various missions around the country, this will soon take place. And as regards the number of persons trained for the 2025 election, this is among to 16,178 persons. As I pointed out before in previous podcasts, since the 2020 elections, new operational innovations have been passed into law and will be utilized for the 2025 elections. There have been new changes in the Representation of the People Act for Electoral District 3, which is the West Coast, 4, Demerara, and 6, which is the Upper Quarantine. You should have quarantine areas, Upper Bourbon areas. Districts 3, 4, and 6 have been divided into 3, 4, and 6 sub-districts, respectively, to enable more efficient and transparent ascertainment of the results of the district and by extension of the entire country. Accordingly, each sub-district will be managed by a supernumerary returning officer under the supervision of the returning officer. Votes cast will be tabulated from the statements of poll, and these votes must be tabulated from the statements of poll that is seen and signed up at the polling station. The returning officer in the case of every district except District 3, 4, and 6, and supernumerary constables in the case of 3, 4, and 6 are expected to follow that procedure. Furthermore, the officers referred to in paragraph 1 above must do the following. Display, using the electronic mechanism provided, each statement of poll for all the persons to clearly see the information on it. 2. Record the votes cast in favor of each list as contained in each statement of poll that is being displayed. 3. District tabulation form in the case of every district except District 3, 4, and 6. All of this must be displayed before the authorized persons at the polling station. Or 2. District tabulation form in the case of District 3, 4, and 6. These tabulation forms are forms that will be handed to the returning or the supernumerary officers by GCOM. Furthermore, to give the opportunity for objection. Persons can make objections, especially those who are authorized. For example, the counting agents, such as the duly appointed candidates, as well as the counting agents. When they are conducting this activity, the returning officers and supernumerary returning officers are not to move or to display another statement of poll unless all of the information required from the statement of poll being displayed is dealt with to the satisfaction of every person present. They must also add the votes recorded on the form, on the prescribed form, to ascertain the total number of votes for each list of candidates. Then, they must record the total fund pursuant to paragraph D above on the form. And then, they must publicly declare the total votes recorded on the form for each list of candidates. Furthermore, in carrying out the requirements stated above, the returning officers and the supernumeraries must ensure that a suitable time is established for the commencement of that process to ensure maximum participation and transparency and effectively communicate that time to 1. The Chief Elections Officer, 2. Election Agent, 3. Duly appointed candidates, and 4. Counting agents. That is so far as an update for the elections in Guyana is concerned. There are more developments since the last time I spoke to you, but I will bring those as we go along. By next podcast on Saturday, I will update you on some of the more recent developments for the elections in Guyana as mandated by the Guyana Elections Commission. Now let's dive into the second matter. In my last podcast, I dealt extensively with the outcome of the United Nations conference that supported the establishment of a two-state solution, call on Israel to commit a Palestinian state. On this occasion, I would like to talk about the situation in Gaza, having read an interesting article that was published in the Jamaica GUYANA, a very popular newspaper in Jamaica, late July, written by one Mr. Jalil Dabdu, a Jamaican attorney at law. Before diving into the contents of the article, I want to suggest that because of the fact that CARICOM, which is the intergovernmental organization, is currently engaged in trade tariff negotiations with the United States, and because of the sensitivities in Washington over tax on Israel, a close ally of the United States, CARICOM countries most likely opted for the kind of statement on the matter in order not to rock the boat, so to speak. In that respect, I prefer to leave it to listeners and viewers to judge for themselves whether the author's criticisms are just or unjust. So here goes. The author goes on and begins his article by stating that last month, beneath the brooding shadows of the Rose Hall Great House, that is a big great house, very historic, in Kingston, Jamaica, where the walls still whisper with the cries of the enslaved. CARICOM leaders assembled in Montego Bay. Now, the CARICOM heads of government held their regular heads of government conference in Jamaica. And whenever they hold a heads of government conference in any one of the member states is expected to provide a good venue for the conduct of the meeting. In this respect, the Rose Hall Great House, Rose Hall Great House, which I know very well because I was in that house quite some time ago as foreign minister, was the venue for the discussion among the leaders. The author went on to describe as follows: that there, meaning at the Great House, on blood-soaked soil, they gathered, descendants of the brutalized, talking about the slaves, to discuss regional affairs, while a modern genocide rages in Gaza. The irony could not be darker, or the symbolism more damning. Here, of course, the author is making a comparison between what took place under slavery and what is happening now in Gaza, which he described as even darker and even more damning. He goes on to say that Gaza burns, children lie buried beneath concrete, hospitals are flattened, families annihilated, people face extermination, deliberate, systematic, and televised. And then he says, yet CARICOM, forged in the aftermath of slavery and colonialism, offers nothing but timid gestures and tepid prose. So here's where we want to take issue with the author of this article, because as I pointed out earlier, CARICOM has a government conference, is not an opposition body. It's an intergovernmental organization where the heads of state and government meet to discuss how best they could either agree to disagree or how they can reach consensus on issues on the agenda. And therefore, when coming to discuss the question of Gaza, they must take into consideration the geopolitical and geostrategic consideration that is facing them full in the face. CARICOM statement issued, the CARICOM government issued a statement on July 11. According to the writer, that statement was filled with diplomatic fluff, a whimper in the face of Israeli atrocities. Well, maybe he's right, but that is so far he's right for himself and maybe others who have a view. But then again, as I keep repeating, and I repeat once again, these are government heads of state that are meeting to discuss very important matters, and bear in mind that they are now faced with a 50% increase levy on products from CARICOM entering the United States. In other words, those goods will now have to pay 50% tariff before they could even access the American market. So, how to balance that, if they want, that is the word, against what this man describes as a whimper and fluff in respect to the statement issued by CARICOM concerning Gaza. He goes on, it is a failure of moral and political courage. CARICOM voice has become an echo fading into irrelevance, to speak in platitudes while children die beneath drones is not neutrality, it is complicity. Now, I take issue also with this statement because I completely disagree that CARICOM is fading into irrelevance, that is speaking platitudes, and that they're now being accused of complicity with the Israeli government with respect to the genocide being committed in Gaza. I think what is important for the author to should have taken into consideration is what happens at the United Nations. Guyana is now in the seat of the chairman of the United Nations Security Council. And the way I know the CARICOM countries operate at the UN, they operate as a group, as a single unit, so that when anyone from CARICOM, whether it's Guyana in the Security Council, or Jamaica in another council, or another committee, or even Trinidad in another committee, or even Barbados or St. Vincent, because they have several committees at the United Nations. Whenever that person speaks, he's speaking on behalf of the community. And this is an experience that goes back to the early 1970s, when all the CARICOM countries came together and decided somewhere around 1972 to open diplomatic relations with Cuba. So this is the way CARICOM operates. I don't believe it is correct to say, as this journalist is saying, that CARICOM voice is fading into irrelevance. They speak with platitudes, and that they are in complicity with the Israeli government to kill and maim and disable Gaza. He goes on, to refuse to name genocide is to deny reality. I don't know CARICOM ever refused to name genocide, because the Prime Minister of Barbados and the President of Guyana spoke about televised genocide and have issued several statements on this matter. He says it is to watch history repeat itself with the mute obedience of cowards. Genocide is not a tragedy, it is a crime. To remain mute is to be an accomplice. I don't know if you can take this statement that was issued by the heads of government as remaining mute. It's a statement that was issued by 14 member states. To what extent is that mute? So here they have issued a statement for the world to see where they stand on Gaza. In the meantime, at the United Nations, their representatives speak with one voice on the same issue. The author goes on. Once, some time ago, this region thundered against apartheid. Once we stood tall in the fires of empire, today we whisper as Palestine is erased. Not at all. Again, I disagree with the author that the region doesn't stand tall any longer as they stood during the days of apartheid. That today the region is just a whisper as Palestine is erased. I'm not so sure that based on previous statements by heads of government that it will sit and watch Palestine disappear. One thing I would like to suggest is that the author should go and spend some days at the United Nations, and listen to some of the debates on how CARICOM countries represent themselves on the question. Now he calls it appeasement. This is a serious allegation or accusation where he's calling or accusing the CARICOM government of engaging in appeasement as during the Second World War, governments sought to appease Hitler and in so doing give away their sovereignty and even land to the fascist Hitlerite regime. It says government has chosen appeasement over principle. Not right at all. I don't know where he got his facts. Comfort over conscience. This is not merely a moral collapse, it is a breach of international law. Many CARICOM states are signatories to one, the 1948 Genocide Convention, obligating them to prevent and punish genocide, the Rome Statute of the ICC, binding them to prosecute crimes against humanity, and finally, the Arms Trade and Geneva Convention, prohibiting arms transport where war crimes are likely. So, I read this article with deep interest because I thought it was very unfair to the CARICOM leaders, heads of state and government, who met in Jamaica to talk about this issue and to exchange their views on how to reconcile their views on genocide, which I know they abhor, which they are opposed to, which they reject, how to reconcile that with the geopolitical and geostrategic challenges that are now before them. The question, which one is priority? I mean, let's take the issue of Russia versus Ukraine. Russia is now engaging in negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. China is now engaged with the United States in order to end the trade war with the United States, between them and the United States. I'm not making a point that this is a question of self-preservation. I'm making a point of national interest. Where do you place your national interest in relation to matters such as Gaza? And should other countries not be paying the same kind of attention as the CARICOM leaders are paying to this subject? Now we come to the question of the two-state solution. Recently at the meeting at New York, this matter was raised, and CARICOM governments are expected to signal their support for a two-state solution at the next UN General Assembly meeting that will be held in September, October this year in the city of New York. So we have to wait and see what will happen at that meeting, because we're hearing different rumblings that France will declare in favor of the establishment of a Palestinian state. We're hearing some views from the British that they will also do so on providing that Israel does take certain action. So let us keep what's called a watching brief on what takes place at the United Nations General Assembly. Let's also keep a watching brief of what's happening in Europe in relation to Ukraine and Russia. And let us keep a watching brief with respect to what will happen in terms of Israel and the other Arab countries and Palestine. This has brought me to the end of today's show. I do hope that the topics I discussed were of interest to you. Please look out for the next CGR show, which will come every Wednesday at 5. Unfortunately, due to my busy schedule with elections and GCOM, I was unable to bring the show on Saturday last, and unfortunately, I was able to bring it today. So I look forward to meeting with you once again on Saturday August 9th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Please do not forget to press the like and share buttons and subscribe to the CJR show. Thank you.